Pocket watch. The pocket watch was invented in the 16th century by a German clockmaker named Peter Henlein. Before it existed, time was something you checked on a tower or a wall. Henlein changed that by making a clock small enough to carry. Early versions only had one hand, just an hour hand. The minute hand didn't arrive until the late 1600s. And before they became the round, flat design most people recognize, pocket watches came in wild shapes: books, animals, fruit, and skulls, because at the time they were more jewelry than tool. That changed in 1675 when King Charles II of England introduced the waistcoat. Suddenly there was a pocket and the watch moved into it. The shape flattened and rounded to fit. Some had open faces, others had a hinged metal cover that flipped shut to protect the glass. It worked, it was reliable, and for over 3 centuries nothing replaced it. But as life moved faster and people needed both hands free, a new question emerged. What if the watch came to the wrist instead? Dress watch. The dress watch came directly out of the pocket watch era. When soldiers in World War I strapped their pocket watches to their wrists to keep both hands free, the wristwatch was born. And when the war ended, watchmakers began designing watches specifically for the wrist. By the 1920s, the dress watch had its own identity, a thin watch worn on formal occasions that disappeared under a shirt cuff without drawing attention. A dress watch sits under 40 millimeters wide. The case is slim, the dial is clean, and there are no extra buttons or bezels. Most use baton markers or Roman numerals with thin needle hands over them. A leather strap finishes it off. Nothing competes with the outfit. That simplicity became the standard for weddings, black tie events, and any room where how you looked mattered more than what you could do. Patek Philippe built its entire reputation here. But not every situation called for a thin case and a leather strap. Field watch. The field watch is the military's answer to the pocket watches soldiers strapped to their wrists in World War I. Those weren't tough enough for mud, rain, and combat, so the Army built something stronger. By World War II, the U.S. military had standardized their version. They called it the A11, a simple watch issued to every soldier. It's a clean black dial, bold white numbers, luminous hands for reading in the dark, and a canvas strap built to take punishment. There was no date window, no extra features, just the time made to be readable at a glance and in any condition. Unlike the dress watch built for elegance, the field watch was built to survive. When the war ended, soldiers brought their watches home. Civilians quickly found out that a battlefield watch pairs just as well with jeans as it does with a uniform. But surviving land was one thing. Surviving the ocean was something else entirely. Dive watch. The dive watch grew out of the same era that produced the field watch, but it was solving a completely different problem. Not for mud and bullets, but for water. In 1926, Rolex founder Hans Wilsdorf patented something that would change watchmaking permanently. A case with a screw-down crown and caseback that sealed the watch completely from the outside world. He called it the oyster case. For the first time, a watch could go underwater and survive. 6 years later, Omega pushed further. Their 1932 Marine featured a sapphire crystal and was later tested to 73 meters in Lake Geneva. No watch had ever been taken that deep before. But the watch that defined the category came in 1953, the Rolex Submariner. Clean black dial, bold, luminous markers, and a rotating bezel that tracked exactly how long you had been underwater. Critical when oxygen was running out. But not everyone wanted to be in the ocean. Some took to the sky. Pilot watch. Pilot watch was inspired by French designer Louis Cartier in 1904. Cartier created a brand new watch for his aviator friend Alberto Santos Dumont, who needed to check the time mid-flight without letting go of the controls. The pocket watch was useless in a cockpit, so Cartier engineered something completely different, a flat, square watch with a leather strap built directly into the case. Santos Dumont was an international celebrity, and his new wristwatch quickly caught the public's eye. Recognizing the demand, Cartier put it into commercial production in 1911. But as aviation expanded into military operations, watchmakers across Europe began building watches specifically for cockpits. Dials grew to 55 mm wide, nearly twice the size of a dress watch. Bold, luminous Arabic numerals, extra long strap, and a crown large enough to turn with gloved hands. In 1954, Breitling launched the Navitimer. A slide rule built into the bezel let pilots calculate speed, fuel, and distance without pen or paper. But this next watch wasn't built for any environment. Chronograph. Every watch so far was built for a specific environment: the battlefield, the ocean, the cockpit. The chronograph is different. It is not defined by where it is worn, it is defined by what it can do. A chronograph is simply a watch with a built-in stopwatch. Two pushers sit on the side of the case next to the crown. Press the first to start timing, press it again to stop. Press the second to reset. In 1821, Nicola Riasek built one for King Louis XVIII, who wanted to know exactly how long each horse race lasted. His device dropped ink onto a rotating dial to mark the time. He called it a chronograph, which literally means time writer. By the time humans reached space, chronographs were on the wrists of astronauts. The same function that timed a royal horse race was now timing re-entry into Earth's atmosphere. A chronograph can live inside any watch: a dress watch, a dive watch. A pilot watch almost always has one. But a stopwatch function was only useful if the watch could survive what came with it. Sport watch. The sport watch, unlike the field watch and pilot watch born for military need, was built for athletes. In 1931, a Swiss company called Jaeger-LeCoultre built the Reverso, what many consider the first purpose-built sport watch. A case that could flip over and protect the dial mid-game. It was made specifically for British Army officers in India who kept cracking their watch glass during polo matches. From there, the category split in two directions: luxury and affordable. In 1972, Audemars Piguet launched the Royal Oak, a steel sport watch that shocked the industry with its price tag. 11 years later, Casio launched the G-Shock, a watch that could survive a 10-meter drop. Digital display, shock-resistant, rubber strap, and cheap enough that almost anyone could get it. The sport watch became the most versatile category of all. Built for sport but comfortable everywhere else. The gym, the trail, the boardroom, it fit them all. But there is only one watch that can make you feel like Tony Stark. Smartwatch. The smartwatch is simply a small computer strapped to the wrist. The first step came in 1972 when Hamilton launched the Pulsar. It was the first digital watch. No hands and no mechanical movement, just numbers on a screen powered by a battery. From there, companies kept pushing. Seiko launched a wristwatch with a processor in 1998. Small screen, poor battery, almost impossible to navigate. It failed, but the idea didn't go away. On April 24, 2015, Apple shipped the Apple Watch. Heart rate monitor, GPS, notifications, apps, and a touchscreen. Everything a smartphone could do shrunk down to nothing. Apple Watch dominated and displaced Rolex, Tag Heuer, and every Swiss watch brand to become the best-selling watch in the world. For the first time in history, the watch that tells time is the least impressive thing it can do.